This anime has quite literally stolen my heart. From the complex characters and storytelling to the intricate world building, I think Hunter x Hunter is a both beautifully and horrifyingly unique show that absolutely everybody should experience. I hope this video will make it clear to you as to why you shouldn't hesitate to watch it. I'll try to keep the content of this video informative to people who don't know Hunter x Hunter yet, and vague enough so that your viewing experience wouldn't be ruined. So be prepared that some things I say may sound very ambiguous or general for that exact reason. I hope to keep this video as free of spoilers as possible, because I really don't want to rob you of the experience. For the people who didn't see Hunter x Hunter yet, I will mostly be discussing the 2011 anime adaptation and the manga, but if you want to know any specific watch order and plan to watch more, I suggest you watch the 2011 version, then watch the 1999 version, and then make sure to never ever watch the movies, even if you're held at gunpoint. And then maybe, if you're really bored, you can watch the musicals. Yes, Hunter x Hunter has musicals if you're into that sort of thing. And of course, I recommend you to read the manga, especially the remaining chapters, because trust me, you're in for a ride. So to start with the video, I'll talk about my own experience as someone who was refusing to watch the show for years. As someone who has been watching anime since back when the first season of Attack on Titan came out, I have seen a great deal of it in my life. But every now and then I would see a post or a video talk about how Hunter x Hunter is one of the best shows ever made. I was a bit skeptical at first, because any fan of any show would say that about what they're currently watching. Also, I never had much time to watch a 150 episode anime. So, to put it this way, I heard it's supposed to be an amazing anime, even from very dependable sources who recommended me good stuff before, but I just never made time for it. And the last reason I kept putting it off was the main character. Yes, the main character of this show, Gon. He just seemed like the typical happy-go-lucky shonen protagonist with an ugly outfit. Heck, the whole show seemed just like another boring shonen anime. And that's where I couldn't have been more wrong. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I thought that I was about to watch another semi-wholesome anime where the good guys beat the bad guys and everything generally goes the way you'd expect. I even thought this anime was going to be boring from the first few episodes, until very slight flashes of unsettling themes started appearing seemingly out of nowhere. And then, somehow, it got even worse. Some imagery from both the show and the manga have shaken me to the core, leaving terrified of the ambiguous nature of this world that I knew I was about to witness. Togashi's writing has many strengths. I will mainly focus on explaining the way he writes characters, his power systems, and storytelling, which, in my opinion, are all nearing the point of perfection. So, to start off, since I mentioned my initial dislike of Gon, the main protagonist of the show, let's start with discussing characters and how they exceeded my expectations. I will not be mentioning specifically any characters other than Gon, because again, I don't want to spoil anything. So the show basically starts as any other shonen, with the story of Gon, who as a protagonist at first appears to be very average boy who has a goal, to obtain the hunter's license in order to meet his deadbeat dad. Yes, that is how the show starts. Basically, this guy went for milk, and the milk was apparently really important to him, and Gon believes the importance of this milk, so let's keep him at that. Even though the story starts by following Gon and treating him as the main character, I dare say that the show doesn't technically have a single or one protagonist. Gon was written in a way in which he does not outshine the remaining cast, while still presenting characteristics of the typical nice and naive main character. Togashi did this on purpose, and I think it works really well. Outside of a few foreshadowing moments here and there, we don't really get to see the true depths of Gon's character, well until the Chimera Ant arc. Gon's role as a character is to help bait us into thinking that we are, in fact, watching the average anime up until the point when we realize how flawed Gon, and therefore the typical representation of the shonen hero, actually is. I will not go into further detail. I am specifically talking about this just so you know that Togashi isn't creating a hero story here. He is creating a world with many complex systems, characters, and their motives that all perfectly blend together. In other words, Hunter x Hunter is not one person's story, but rather a combination of stories within this world. All of the characters, no matter how significant to the perceived main story they are given complex stories and character depth, so much so that at some points, you can't even be sure if you were rooting for the right guy all along. Even the show villains, no matter how cruel they might seem, are shown to have a strong sense of purpose and various complex motives, while still going about their day as a normal person would sometimes. Some of them even seem like ordinary people who just happen to be put in unfortunate circumstances, but others show us the cruel nature of the world by being selfish, and others help us see how selfish the heroes can be too, completely blending the contrast between heroes and villains and rather creating some sort of a gray area where you, as the viewer, are forced to come to your own conclusions about the morality and decisions being presented to you. If you see a character in one arc, they might be a completely different person by the end of another, based on their circumstances and how they let their emotions and actions affect them. And of course, I can't not mention how diverse every character is. No type of character, protagonist, villain, or trope is ever repeating. All the designs are very memorable and the stories are unique. Or in some cases, some of the stories are very similar, but with a drastically different outcome. This serves to add depth to the world building and to give the characters equal value on storytelling terms, as an interesting story could be told by basically any of the characters in the show and not just Gon himself. The way all of the characters fit in the world feels very natural and organic, which adds a sense of realism and helps you to feel as if you were entering an actual world with complex systems that work as they should for the inhabitants of said world. The role of the main characters isn't simply to defeat the bad guys through the power of friendship, while becoming extremely overpowered because that's what the main characters are supposed to do. It is to show the depth of this world and make us reflect on our own. If the main characters are kids who just learn their power, it is only natural that they won't be able to win the world's toughest battles. Or actually, any tough battles to be exact. Or at least not without a severe cost. The brutal nature of the world it takes place in is shown to us, the naive viewers, through the eyes of a naive kid who doesn't fully understand how cruel the world can be. The world of Hunter x Hunter is not built on one story, but many complex stories of people that it consists of. The chemistry between the main characters and also some other characters is amazing. But that doesn't mean when things get rough and someone messes up, it doesn't affect the people involved. When it comes to world building, one of the things that immediately stood out to me and showed me how reliable the world of Hunter x Hunter is was the first arc itself. Usually, any kind of exam arc in most shonen anime I saw is rarely ever completed, mainly due to being interrupted by villains or some other bad thing happening. In Hunter x Hunter, the Hunter exam is completed without any major complications. There is only one disturbing event which is still considered to be okay within the rules confirmed by the committee. This means that the protagonists don't hold a special role in the world. They are just a part of it. There are certain rules that must be followed, and when something happens, there are exact protocols of who gets to deal with it and how. Even when our main protagonists are involved, their purpose is never to outshine anybody. They don't fulfill the hero complex most shonen protagonists do, and that, I think, is truly amazing. You still see them fight great battles and great opponents, but they struggle realistically, both physically and mentally. Nobody seems overpowered just because they have some kind of a plot armor. In fact, I think the way Togashi is heading with the manga right now, it might be the exact opposite in some cases. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Speaking of systems in this anime, you might have already heard about Nen. If not, I don't want to break your head by explaining it, but let's just say it's the main power system in this world. A technique that allows a person to manipulate their life force, or their aura, to their own will. This can manifest in many different ways and forms, which I wouldn't get into either. I will tell you though that it is one of, if not the best power system I've seen in anime yet, due to its versatility in the ways it can manifest and its rules and logic. One aspect of Nen that makes it really balanced that I will tell you about though are Nen restrictions. Basically, to have your power be even more powerful, you can make a deal that is very high risk and high return in nature. You might wish for a certain power that seems overpowered in theory, but you have to only use it under very specific conditions, and in some extreme cases, that can even include something like bargaining with your own life. That's kind of like what Jotaro did with his mother's soul, if you're a Johto enjoyer. This keeps the battles somewhat more even and fair than other systems. Nen battles can be very brutal and or strategic, depending on the nature of the Nen users. But also, the very nature of those battles can be just as unpredictable. It often happens that you might think one side of the battle is guaranteed to win. However, there are just so many factors in play. In other words, the fights are not just about diffing your opponent with brute strength or power. They're also about how versatile your power is and how you manage to put it in use. I don't want to ruin your fun of learning Nen and its different applications, so I will kindly shut up about Nen now. One of the last points I want to make is that I am fully aware that the length of Hunter x Hunter might put some people off, unless you're a One Piece enjoyer, which is totally understandable if you're used to 12 episodes anime, but trust me when I say it's worth it, and it never gets stale or boring. Each of the arcs is very different in its nature. Only the first one or two follow the typical shonen fighting anime formula, and even within those, there are a few glimpses warning us about what lies ahead. The story always introduces new elements in each arc, with different rules, different power systems, and different characters and goals, and it is basically impossible to get bored while watching it. This aspect makes it feel quite realistic, as the real world we live in can be quite unpredictable as well, so you can never be sure where you're headed with the next adventure. It is filled with novelty and Togashi's creativity. So much so that almost each arc feels like you're watching a different anime. Not even the protagonists stay the same. Not only character development wise, but also quite literally. Togashi's story advances very organically. He makes you feel like you are a part of the world as an observer, witnessing the many different ways in which the characters of the world live and interact, while still learning valuable lessons through their powerful character developments. You are not forced to take a narrative in a certain way, but rather, like a hunter, make your own conclusions from what you see. Even the foreshadowing is so low-key and natural to the story that you might not even notice, and other storytelling devices such as some parallels and mirroring used with some characters are such a genius way of sending across the message. And of course, I have to mention the art, which can go from very simplistic and wholesome to very disturbing and realistic. The purpose of it being to display in realism the very dark things we encounter in our own world, giving the moment a much more serious tone whenever it's needed. Togashi genuinely puts so much thought in his work and the battles themselves, both mental and physical, that it many times leaves me speechless just rewatching and rereading what I just saw, to even begin to be able to understand the thoughts that went into writing it. Yet, you are never forced to think about it too deeply and can still enjoy it just for what it is. I think that's the approach most viewers actually take, so there's no need to overanalyze like I do. I think everybody is able to find what they like in this anime, due to its versatile nature, and I believe everybody should at some point watch it and read it to witness the beautiful yet terrifying nature of Hunter x Hunter. And don't even let me get started about the endless possibilities that come from the last chapters of the manga. If Hunter x Hunter ever gets to finish, I think it will go down in history as one of the best pieces of fiction. And if you still don't believe me, I dare you to watch all 148 episodes and then come back. If by then, you can say that something as ridiculous sounding as an ant taking over North Korea, playing some sort of board game, made you cry, then honestly, I'm not even sure what else in this world could move your heart. The purpose of Hunter x Hunter is not to show you how you can defeat everything with the power of friendship, or by relying on your own inner and outer strength. Or it's not even to show you how brutal the world is. It is simply to highlight the highs and lows, and also the middles of life. All the different experiences and the different people you meet. How everything you go through can influence you as a person, and how you yourself choose what you make of it. Hunter x Hunter is a commentary on humanity, and what makes people remain human in a harsh world with supernatural powers and people who want to abuse them for their personal gain. Just like the nature of the hunters themselves, we are all different people and have different goals in life. Hunter x Hunter helped me realize that sometimes it's okay to be a little selfish, if it means that you get to live your life to the fullest with no regrets. It's a story about discovering the world and ourselves through our experiences and allowing some of them to shape our views. We are the ones who choose and define who we are. But most importantly, what Hunter x Hunter teaches us is that we exist simply to face all the adventures life has to offer, whatever their nature is. The beauty of life itself is getting the chance to live it. Just like the symbolic atomic bomb in the shape of the rose in the Chimera Ant arc, the Hunter x Hunter world, just as our world, is beautiful, yet it has its thorns. Life itself seems to be of dual nature. We see the good and bad in people and in ourselves. We see the good and bad in our world and in nature itself. But it can't be simply put in a few words, as everything leads to anything, creating a very complex picture of what we perceive to be life. Hunter x Hunter teaches us that the world, even though it may seem to be in perfect contrast at first, is complex rather than just black and white picture we paint when we want to point at something being wrong or someone being the villain or the hero of a story. Everything exists on a spectrum, on a scale of grays and all different colors. Just as the villains do bad deeds and heroes do good, both of them are capable of doing the exact same thing, depending on their circumstances. There is a lot of suffering, just as there is a lot of beauty in this world. And sometimes it's even both. And I am so glad and grateful to be here to experience it all. So just like many other people that enjoy this show, I am so extremely grateful that Togashi has shared this story with us. Whether it is ever finished or not, I think we all already learned so much from it. I genuinely hope his health gets better, and that he gets to put out into this world whatever he wants to, so that he can feel truly proud of all the other lives and all the other stories he has influenced by his work. With all that in mind, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it served its purpose. Even if it didn't, just remember this one very important thing. Don't let anything distract you from the fact that bungee gum possesses the properties of both rubber and gum.